Hi guys, this is Stephen Wooding here, and today I did my first footage from my new GH5. I'm very impressed with it. I made a little bit of a cinematic footage of taking my dogs to the park, just letting them have fun and run around. I also got some drone footage, so I've sort of mixed them up and made a bit of a music video about it. So if you want to see the video and jump straight into it, just go to the time displayed right here. Obviously, I'm new to the whole filmmaking thing, so I'm making some mistakes. And I think maybe sharing these mistakes with other people will help them to circumvent these mistakes and obviously go through these obstacles a lot quicker so that you can get results quicker. So today, the first issue I've encountered was using an ND filter. Now, as you know, the reason for using an ND filter is purely so that you can still use a 180-degree shutter. If you don't know what the 180-degree shutter is, you can just YouTube that. It's not the 180-degree rule. That's a completely different thing. We're talking about the 180-degree shutter, which basically means that your shutter is half the speed of your frame rate. So if your frame rate is 25, like mine currently is, my shutter speed is 50. So it's 1/50th of a second. The problem obviously you have when you're outside and it's very bright, you can't keep to that because it's going to overexpose the video footage. And you obviously want to keep your aperture wide open to get a nice depth of field. That's where the ND filter comes in. So the ND filter obviously darkens down your image. It's like sunglasses for your camera. So that means that you can still keep your aperture open and you can shoot at a low frame rate so you get some nice blur. It still looks cinematic. The mistake I made was that I put the camera on auto ISO. As a result, my ND filter was actually set to too dark. And that means that the camera cranked up the ISO, which means that my footage came out very grainy. Not all of the videos, at least I realized that the issue was happening, so I could actually fix it in time. Then it obviously became a problem as to where I should set it. One of the times it was also too bright. At least I saw it on the footage and I fixed that. But as a result, I lost some more video shots. Tip number one is don't use auto ISO. Use manual ISO. Set your ISO when you're outside, set it to 200 or 100 or the lowest setting that your camera can take. This is obviously if you are in daylight. So if you want to shoot good video in daylight, go to your lowest ISO, your lowest aperture, and use 180-degree shutter. So basically all your settings are manual. So then obviously the only thing you adjust to adjust your brightness of your image is your ND filter. The second issue I've encountered is that of hard disk space. As you guys know, if you record a lot of video, it takes an immense amount of hard disk space. I've recently filled up a 3 terabyte hard drive. Now I need to go out and buy another hard drive, and I can just see in the future we're going to run into some problems here. So what I'm doing now is I'm re-encoding the videos in one, another codec, and two, in a lower bitrate. Now, this is something that's not well known in the video community, and that is that your camera doesn't actually optimally compress the video. The reason for that is that the data processing is just too intense to happen real time. So the data that actually goes into the sensor, if you're recording at 4K 30 frames per second, is roughly 700 megabytes per second. Just to give you an idea, that is 720p movies. If you download an actual movie, it would have been around about 700 megabytes for the entire movie. Now, the sensor of your camera, if you're recording at 4K 30 frames per second, would be the same size as that entire movie in 1 second. That's the amount of data that actually goes through your sensor. Now, the job of your camera is to compress that down to roughly 12 megabytes per second. That's now if you are encoding to 100 megabits per second. So 100 megabits per second is roughly 12 megabytes per second. Because it has to do all this real time, it can't do a good job. Because it has to do it now, it has to get it out because the next frame is coming in. So what you can do is you can just rerun all this on your computer, where your computer can sit, it can take its time, it can look at each and every frame and do a decent job at compressing it. Just to give you an idea, if you go from the camera shooting in the H.264 codec, if you compress it on the PC in the H.265 codec, which is the next generation, and you set your megabits down to 10 megabits per second, you in essence compress your files to 1/10 of their size without any quality loss. I can't see a quality difference. The colors is a little bit different. This is purely because H.265 uses a different color scope as H.264, but this you can easily correct if you post-process these files. So yeah, that's everything I have for you today. Any new information, all the issues I've had and how I fixed them. So now let's look at this video, and please be kind with your feedback because I'm still new at this, so the video might not be the best. The ground footage was obviously taken with the GH5 and the drone footage was taken with my Phantom 3 Pro.